Welcome to COSC 1301. As you can see, the course content for this lecture is involved with Introduction to Databases and Computer Applications. We've got primitive databases, modern databases, interfaces used for database interaction, storing data in tables, relational database management system capabilities, and finally common databases and how they store data. Now, to begin with, we're going to look at the primitive databases. I've listed two. First one is Rolodex. As you can see, this is a Rolodex. It is an alphabetized tabs that list all the letters of the alphabet. So you can store a tab, basically a tab within any one of these letters. And you can put the information that you want in there. And whenever you wanted to access, you'd go to that individual tab. If you had something that started with a G, then you would move the tab for G, and you'd select that information. And if another one would be the file cabinet. The file cabinet is probably an update from the Rolodex. File cabinets, typically you'll have 4 drawers, and each one of the drawers will have information about a customer. And inside each one of the drawers are folders, and the folders have information about your customers that you deal with. If you wanted to find out the customer person that you wanted you needed to contact within the company, you would have that information within their folder. So folder XY for company XYZ, you can have the invoices they've had, the contact persons, the phone numbers, the addresses, and things of that nature. And it would be in the folder. So you would go to the folder to find that information. Now, modern databases, you have computer databases that are logical structures used to organize and store data for future processing, retrieval, and evaluation. These are on the computer, and they're not in the old primitive databases. Databases today are stored on computers, and they use an application called a database management system, or DBMS, to control access to the database. Now, data within the most common types of databases are stored in tables consisting of rows and columns. The data can be easily accessed, managed, modified, updated, controlled, and organized using a database management system. So interfaces used for database interaction. Databases are logical structures, as I've said before, that can be organized, store, and retrieve information from the database. Now, a database must provide an interface that allows a user to interact with the database for data entry, for updates, and to retrieve information from the database. So now, data definition is part of the language of a database system, and you can use that data definition to create, modify, and remove definitions of the data structures. And these operations change the properties that affect how data will accept and store data. This is more important in some types of databases. Now, another structure within a database is updates. You need to update information. You've got information in a database table, but you need sometimes to update it and modify it in some way. So you have to be able to insert, modify, and delete data within the database. These operations change the actual data that is being stored. When you hire an employee, you have to insert their information into your database. When an employee goes on to better places, then you have to delete them from your database. Then the last one is retrieval. You have to provide access to the stored data. Data can be retrieved as is and can often be filtered or transformed to massage it into more useful formats. Now, many database systems use rich querying languages to achieve this. Now, these three are basically part of a database. Now, we store data in a database in tables. A database is organized as a collection of information that typically is organized as tables. A database stores information such as names and phone numbers that are associated with a given customer base of an organization within tables. And this is an example of a table, a database table. You've got columns of information and you've got rows of information. The columns of information are called attributes. You've got an ID, an attribute, you got a company attribute, you got a first name attribute, you got a last name attribute, phone number attribute. The columns of a table contain information or attributes about individual customers, information such as company names, first name, last name, and phone numbers. Now, row information provides all attribute information about each one of the companies that are listed there. It combines all of the attributes of the columns. So Acme Company will basically, for the row information, you will have an ID for that particular company, and you'll have a first name and a last name for a contact reference, for instance, of the person that's in that. You also have access to their phone numbers. Now, relational database management system capabilities. Now, relational database can connect tables to enable retrieval of information from related tables that are connected by a common attribute between tables. Now, this is an example of two tables. You got a customer table and you've got an order table. Now, there's a relationship formed between these by this connection here. It connects, this ID is the same as a customer ID over here, and it connects it to that. Now, without this connection, you cannot access information between the tables. But with this connection, if I want information about this particular company and whatever their customer ID, their employee ID, the shipper ID, I can access that information as long as this relationship exists. So if I'm just in the customer table, I can only access information about the customer. If I don't have a relationship. If I don't have a relationship and I'm in the orders table, I can only access information between these two. Between this table, that is. Now, common databases and how they store database. Now, I'm just going to cover two. A relational database, also known as a SQL database. These store data in tables and rows and columns using structured query language for data manipulation. Now, this is information, but it's stored on a computer system. It's not, we look at here, it might be a distributed system, but it's stored on a single computer. Now, if you have information that's on a cloud database, that information these databases are hosted on the cloud or the internet and can be accessed remotely, offering scalability and flexibility. So here you have to be on this particular computer unless you have a remote access to it. But here, all you do is log into a particular website, and that information will be available to you. So this concludes my lecture on the databases. So I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.